Hello, my name's Chris, this is Blue Kraken Gaming, and welcome back to, and I can't believe I'm going to be saying this, the final time for this series to Satisfactory. As you can see, in the top right hand corner, everything was made. So, we finished it. It's done. In our last episode we were working on some of the optimizations to try and get some of our previous component parts sort of sped up for the final space elevator part. We did that, and then I left the game running because we were making 6 a minute and it needed 3 hours to run. I wasn't going to make you sit and watch that. So yeah, it's got on with it, but it's all done. So what does that mean for today? Well, today we're going to be doing a final world tour for everything we've built, basically covering it all off. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start, for those that are familiar with the series, over here, and we're going to basically work our way through all of our facilities, going from one end to the other, stopping at the Nexus, and then we'll loop back to the Nexus to send off the space elevator parts at the end of the video. Now, I apologise if this does wind up being a little bit stop-start. Satisfactory at the moment has become unstable for me, and my understanding is it has for a few of you guys as well. Now, with this, it has already crashed on me twice today before I even got recording, so I'm hoping it's going to be okay, but it does mean I might have to do stop-starts, and depending how far into it I am, we may have a bit of an issue with trying to get all of that done. That being said, I'm going to head off and we're going to start with the world tour when we get to Mexico City. So yeah, I'll see you guys in a few moments. So here we are, our first stop, Mexico City. With Mexico City, this was not one of the first facilities we built. It was one of the, I'm going to say, middle facilities we built. And it is a power plant. Well, no, it's not a power plant. It is predominantly our primary plastic and rubber facility. As you can see, we've got them running underneath here, and they run into this kind of like storage barrier here, which, if I just hop in here for a second, you can see it's all just fed in here, and then they feed into the trains. Yeah, that's what that is up to. So yeah, looking at this facility, this is where we are on the map, just on this coast here, and we picked this location because there were four oil nodes, 2 pure, 2 normal, so we could really try and do a lot. So each of the oil nodes is in, whoa, did not expect there to be bad guys around. They must have respawned. Final bit of satisfactory combat for us then. Go away. So yeah, each of them is inside a little hut like this. And you just pop in, and there's your oil extractor. They've got a light above them. Yeah, it's just pumping out all that oil. So we've got this one here. You can see that one over there in the distance, that one over there. And the final one's actually attached to the facility itself. So we will jump in and have a look at the facility. Now, what I did with this one was, because I didn't want to be working with pumps the whole way through whenever we moved up a floor or anything, what it actually does is it brings all of this oil together, so you can see it pops out, and then it actually pushes all of it to the very top floor. Now, this is not a functional building. You could not walk around here. You do need a hover pack to fly in through the window to get to the top floor. But the top floor brings this oil in, feeds it through all of these refineries where we are making heavy oil residue, rubber and plastic. So they are all just using the stock default recipe, but they're just wearing away with that. Completely unrelated to this, but out the back, because we had the space, we've got our emergency battery supply. So these guys are all wired in, and they should, yeah, fully charged. So these guys are all charged up, and they are just storing tons of extra battery power for us should we ever actually need it, but hopefully we won't. So that effectively pushes all the oil up to this floor. Then the heavy oil residue, because the rubber and the plastic just goes down into the train station. We have got an overflow system, so that if they back up, they get sunk into there, so we don't freeze the entire system. But what happens with the heavy oil is it goes to the floor below, which I, again, haven't left a way in. And, oh, I never actually filled the back in either, by the looks. So what it does on this floor, we've got our heavy oil in here, and they come into these two fluid buffers. And they are mixed with water, so we take that heavy oil residue, we mix it with water, and we make fuel. A lot of it. An awful lot of it, because all of these blenders are overclocked. So we are producing 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14... what, 180? It's 200... I don't know maths. It's what? 200 times 9. There you go. 1,800 fuel. And effectively what happens is 600 of each of them, so they're all joined into threes, as you can see, comes into this fluid buffer, and they, and I'm not going to need to go to each floor because each one is identical, but what they do is they all go onto a floor full of fuel generators. So we can have a look around at the one on the ground floor because that has got access. Had access. So what it does, we've got all of these fuel generators. They are all just lined up. Yeah, and they're just burning that fuel that we've made to generate a huge amount of power for us. So the power was secondary on this. This was not a power plant. This was built... So the fuel generators in here are purely to deal with the waste. That's all they're for. But yeah, it is a big facility. It was nice. It generates all of that plastic and rubber for us. Not quite enough for us across the entire map. We have got a few other ways that we've had to do it, but effectively we then built this bridge, and you can see this was very early on where it literally is just right angled into it. I was not very good at curves at this point. I still don't think I'm very good at curves, but I just had no way of doing it here. So it right angles along this nice glass bridge so we can see them moving along, and then yeah, they're all fed into there. So that's our giant tea fuel factory. But like I say, the reason I fed it in at the top was the only pumps then are involved are the original oil ones to get the oil to the top, and the water to get them to the second floor. And then other than that, gravity does all of the rest of the work moving it through. Because I just thought that would be an interesting way of doing it, because normally you build bottom up, but I thought this time I'll go top down and just see how it goes. And it works really nicely, and it means I have only had to do... That whole building has 6 pumps in it, I think. Maybe 12. Oh yeah, because I've got some at the bottom. So yeah, 12 pumps in that entire facility, which I was really pleased with. I liked that. So, we will move now onto our next block of facilities, because there's like 4 next to each other that we're going to go to. And this is where we're going to have a look at our aluminium, our computer factory, and a few other bits and pieces. So I will see you guys when we get round there. Okay, so here we are at our next cluster of facilities. You can actually see the power plant we were just at over there. So we're not actually that far along the coast. We are now, like I say, just a bit further on. So this is our aluminium facility, and this actually is the only independent train track. Everything else runs off that same central one, but this one is its own little closed loop that goes up that corkscrew there to collect bauxite from some miners. They're not very interesting. They're basically just a miner on a bauxite node with a belt running all the way to that train station. So that train station, like I say, collects the bauxite up there. We have 2 trains that basically run backwards and forwards, collecting all that bauxite and running it down here. Now, they all get dropped into stations and get fed into the facility here, where we have got buffers. They all come through the storage container, so they never have to stop when the train's going. And effectively, the bauxite is coming into these refineries. It's using the stock solution here. So this was the first aluminium facility we built. We have got a second, which we will look at later, but this was the OG one. So I was using the basic recipe here, No, it wasn't. Sloppy alumina, because I didn't want to deal with any of the silica. So I've always used the sloppy alumina, alternate recipe. And then this is using the alumina solution. So I'm bringing in coal, because we have a coal power plant which produces an exorbitant amount of spare coal, so it just gets run all over the shop. Actually, that's not as full as it should be. It is climbing at least. Okay. I know we had a few train problems, so that could be it. So, yes, effectively we've got these bits here. These are making the alumina scrap, which, if we go upstairs... Do I have to get from there from the other side? I think I might have to. This, again, was very compact and not built with the ease of moving by foot in there. Here we go. This is our smelter array. So we've got... All of them are using the pure ingots. So it allows us to use the... what one of these? Smelters instead of... forges? Foundries, because I don't need to bring silica in. So these are just using the pure scrap. So again, this is an alternate recipe. It's the easy alternate recipe. I've not had to bring any silica in. And so what these guys do, those guys feed down there, and the rest of them all feed up into this direction. Now, there's a slight split over here just to make compressed, or to make the aluminium fluid tanks, because we do use those for occasionally shipping out if we need to get them anywhere for any of our gas production. But effectively, that when that backs up, it basically makes everything else work properly. So what we've got down here is we have apparently not enough aluminium ingots coming in. No, we don't. Interesting. To make these alclad aluminium sheets. So, yeah, we've got those over here, and then the other side we've got casings. Why have you all stopped? You can't get that out. You are out of coal. Right. Okay. That's an unfortunate thing to have just spotted here. But anyway, these guys are making the aluminium casings. So we've got casings coming in from one side and the sheets from the other. Now, all of it gets fed in and out from that train station over there. So I'm hoping we have one of our coal carts coming along soon. Well, that's the copper line, that's the Aluminium Express. Because we have got, like I say, trains that come through and drop off the coal that they need. I don't think I've got any coal on me, no. But yeah, that's this aluminium facility. They do have overflows, so that if it does get backed up, they all feed into these awesome sinks here, where we have coupons sat. I do quite like it because we've got this kind of glass bridge where we're running the resources backwards and forwards and the trains go underneath. It is quite cool. And I've got these lights set up to give us a nice bit of illumination at night time. I kind of like that. So, the next facility we're going to go and have a look at is this one over here, which was the first one I tried to do and have a bit of... Actually, no, it wasn't the first one I tried to do, where I tried to have a bit of architectural thought in it. But I tried to make it look interesting, so I've got like this hexagonal window at the front that the train would come out of. So this effectively is just the train station part. What this is our concrete facility. So this is where we mass produce concrete should we need it. Oh no, it is still there. I have a moving arrow. However, I did it backwards. So the arrow's actually moving in the wrong direction. It's pointing in the right direction, because as the train comes in, it comes in and turns left. But if you actually look, they are sliding to the right. It's moving in the wrong direction. And I have not got round to changing it. Yeah, because I'd need to completely take all of them off and rotate them 180 degrees, which I don't want to do. But anyway, this is our concrete facility. So, it feeds from... so we've got two... I think it's just those two nodes down there that are feeding all of the limestone. And then we've got all the water. Oh no, there's another limestone node under here. Yeah. And then all the water goes in as well. So what this stuff does is it goes in here. Let's just get into where there's a hole in the room so we can get into the logistics. So this all feeds in, and what it does is it goes upstairs. I tried to put a few lights in for windows in for a logistics floor, but you know, I'm still not great at finishing these off. I also tried these striped panels where it alternates the concrete and steel on this one just to see what it looked like. And then this was, I don't know whether you'd call it an eyesore or interesting, but basically I was watching, now this is going to be a bit revealing for people, Married at First Sight Australia. It's the little bit of trash telly that I do actually indulge in. And they just had a building there where it was all glass front and it had this kind of metal crisscross over it, exactly like this. And it was just there in Melbourne. And I thought that'd be a really interesting kind of thing to do. So I've got all the refineries in here. They're making wet concrete to really spit out as much as possible. And then, yeah, I've got my glass ceilings because I love a glass ceiling. And then the whole thing is basically just a glass box with this crisscrossed metal effect. And I really kind of like it. It's definitely different. It's very interesting. I was also trying sort of striped vents in the roof after watching... Oh god, I've been watching a lot of Ark recently, so I'm blanking on people's names. Total Eclipse. I was watching Total Eclipse, and he did this at one point, and I thought, actually, that's kind of interesting to try and let some of the natural light through. So, yeah, I tried that as well. But effectively, this just produces anywhere we need, like, spare concrete, we can just jump into our network, throw down a train station, and say, oh, bring this train over, because all of this is loaded with concrete, like fully loaded. And then what it does is it will either send it out to an overflow, which is going to go over to that facility we're going to have a look at in a moment, or it sinks it so it doesn't stop. So yeah, we've got spare concrete to sink, because this was a point where I was obsessed with resource sinks to make sure that everything was able to be resolved and nothing would stop. Now, jumping over in this direction, we're going to... Oh, I meant to try and get a bit of a softer landing there. Yeah, jumping over it... Oh, why are these trains stopping? Oh no, there you go, you're moving on. That's fine. Right, so over in this direction, this is where we are making computers, radio... something. Not what they're called. But yes, so this was an attempt where, and I didn't complete this at all, and this is something I want to try and get better at. I wanted to try and make a walkable factory. So the plan with this was that you would be able to jump off the train, come up the ladder, and then there's your door to get into the facility. That was the plan with this one, so that we'd have this. And then it was going to be, you'd have this kind of central corridor. I mean, I've got all these plants that have regrown. But then along the way, you'd have telling you what's in there. Just hearing things at me. So, like, we've got the circuit board room. So we can see all the plastic and all the copper. And that's making all the circuit boards. And this should have extended out, but it didn't. So it's kind of an incomplete one. But, you know, I had to go under here. Well, I've got a bus here bringing in a load of random stuff, like screws and stuff. Yeah, so that was the plan. So it's like it comes along here, there's a wall, and I should have had another door here with some kind of walkway, but I never actually set that up. So that was kind of the original intent, but I never got round to completing it, as it were. So we're making circuit boards there, we're making computers here, which is good. So these guys are all just chunking away. They are actually at 100% efficiency for a change, which is nice. We then come over here. These guys are making our crystal oscillators. So we have a load of crystal coming in, rubber, AI limiters. I believe some of that's coming in by train and some of it's coming in by actually I think all of that's coming in by train. So upstairs was going to be our logistics floor for all of this. So just to do the last bit, so we've got our crystal oscillator spinning out there, and then the very final step we've got just behind, and again you can see it's all segmented because I had that kind of plan, but these guys are making our heavy modular frames right at the end. And it logistics all up here. We are making the encased industrial beams because we needed them for... what do we need them for? The heavy modular frames. And then we've got a load of steel coming in to make a ton of screws for it all. So we've got like a few small on-site stuff up here where it's like easier to move a steel beam than a million screws. So we ship in steel beams and turn them into screws, and then we've just got a logistics maze up here to get everything done, and then we've got, you know, drone ports up here to fly things in and out. The only other thing being produced at this facility are the radio control units, which are making use of the circuit boards and crystal oscillators that are made on site. It brings rubber in via train, and it brings in the aluminium casings from the aluminium facility via this bridge here that crosses over where the trains come in. We've got 4 stations because one was originally going to be an output, which was this one, but we've since moved to drones, but that's why there's still some on this line. So yeah, this was going to be an output station which doesn't get used anymore, but then the other 3 are bringing in inputs that we need for resources. It wasn't perfect. It should have been bigger, because I don't think it made anywhere near enough computer components for what we need, if I'm honest, but it has got us to where we need to be. But yeah, that's that facility. So the next one we're going to have a look at is not our first power plant, our second power plant that we built. So I will see you guys when we get over to that one, when I find what it's called. Okay, so here we are. This is where we made our second coal power plant, when the first one wasn't quite producing enough power for us. So you access it off the central train line, comes down this corkscrew, and it's a single loop to get in and out. There is one additional thing at this location that I'm just going to cover off very, very quickly. We've got 2 drone ports here, and they are shipping out quartz. That's literally it, because they're pulling quartz out of this cave and they're shipping it off to our new aluminium facility that we'll go and see in a bit. However, this is a pretty straightforward fuel factory plant, other than the absolute flipping mess that I can't stand that I left like this. Like, I cannot stand I left these tubes like this. Particularly when you consider how neat they started. Like, look at that neatness. Look at how good that started. And then it just turns into this cacophony. It's awful, and I can only apologise. But what it effectively does is, this was just after they brought us in, or gave us access to, ceiling mounts. So if I come over to the entrance and the way in, which is just in here, everything is fed along the ceiling. So we've got the water along the bottom, all the coal comes in and gets fed along the top. Hoping that one's keeping up. It looks like it is. That's all good. Yeah, so basically that's it. It's a coal generator plant. We have plenty of room at the back here so we could run around. You've got glass above each one, so alternates between, you know, 2 panels of glass, 3 panels of concrete. Yep. Oh no, that one's only 2 panels. Oh, and yeah, so if it was the space where it has, basically, if it's the coal plants facing each other, it was 3. If they're back to back, it was 2. Why has that only got 1 in the middle? I don't know what I was thinking. I don't like that. You've got 3 and... What was I doing? I don't like those numbers. But effectively, yeah, this is how it works. It's just a normal coal power plant. There's nothing super dramatic or interesting here, other than, like I say, this is where they gave us access to ceiling mounts for the first time. So yeah, we were playing with these, and that was what we were making use of at this one. So yeah, this is a coal power plant. Nothing's overclocked. It's just a large number of coal power plants. Beam, get out of the way. Thank you. We didn't have... I miscalculated when I was originally doing all of this. So effectively, you can see we've got 4 coal nodes here that are all being fed, because you can see them coming in to the side. This last one is actually being fed by a train, because I built them and went, oh, I don't have a 5th coal node. But I was producing excess coal over at our original coal power plant, but we didn't have the space or the water to expand any of the power infrastructure there, so we then actually just trained coal over here to feed this last one. So that's all that straightened out. What you can also see though with these bits up here is the remnants of the roadway, because I did make a skyway at one point, which was basically just a big road connecting the map instead of the train network, because at one point I was actually trucking this coal over here, not using a train, it was trucked over. So yeah, we have got that as a remnant. I do miss the skyway. I do. I kind of wish I'd left a lot of the trucks in play instead of shipping everything over to trains, because trains have been causing me headaches and trucks don't cause those headaches. So yeah, I kind of wish that. But I mean, this is all going to be coming soon. Right, moving on. Our next place is going to be probably our motor factory. So this is the one we've been working on most recently, so I will see you guys when we get over there. Okay, so here we are at the motor factory. I've jumped all the way down, so we're at the quote-unquote, well, one of the front doors. This is the first big factory that we built away from our main starting location. So that's the other front door, which leads all the way down basically to that forest floorway there. We've got a hypertube there that takes us back to our main starting area, but effectively this was originally set up and geared towards building motors. It's had to do a bit more stuff now, and I've had to knock holes in the walls, which I'm not happy with, but you know, I just needed to get things done at this point. So effectively, why are you amber? No, you're idle because you can't get stuff out. That's fine. That is an okay reason to be stopped. So what we've got is we've got our iron miners down there. You can see them feeding iron ore up into these smelters. These smelters feed the iron and combine it with coal that's coming from a node way over there. There's a long old belt. You can kind of see where it trails and goes around all those quartz nodes, which we'll have a look at in a bit. And these foundries are making steel. Now, they are split, okay? They're not on the same bus. So these ones here go off up and come up on this one. Those ones go off and go up in that corner. So that's kind of this floor. It is making steel, which comes up here, and they are then turned into steel pipes and steel bars, or steel beams, whatever they're called. Yeah, steel beams, which then go upper floor. Again, we did have an overflow bit here. It's not been needed in a long time, but we did have an overflow feeding into an awesome sink. Now, when we get up here, we are making stators, and originally we... no, these ones were always here, so this bank was already here. So the steel pipes come in, and they are being turned into stators. The beams come in, and they are being turned into... reinforced concrete or encased industrial beams, with the concrete from that little setup down there. Again, we just tried to keep everything in a similar kind of theme. I'm not going to go down there and look at it separately, because you can kind of see the pathing and everything, how it works. It's just a single node into 3 constructors. Yeah, you were turned off. I can turn you back on that, can't I? Because everything's done, so I can just let it run. So yeah, we've got that bit going into there, and again that sends our steel beams off, and they go into a train station to make their way back to our central facility, which I call the Nexus. So this is where we were making the ones that we were just storing. We did have an overflow, but again, that's not been needed in a long time. What we were originally making before we did the upgrades to this facility was this was also making our automated wiring with these stators. Now the automated wiring has moved from 2 assemblers, which is basically where those 2 were but 90 degrees, to all this nonsense out here to make the automated wiring. This lot's working at 100% at the moment, and they're all overclocked to 200%. So they are behaving quite nicely, which is good. Now, with all of that, we did also, for the motors, in addition to the stators, need to make, I think it was rotors or something else. So we actually made a basement addendum afterwards. Now, these are pulling from a separate iron node, which is actually immediately underneath, and just under here on the floor is where the smelting takes place, and then they come up as iron ingots. And what we do is we effectively turn a big chunk of them into screws, big chunk of them into rods, and then screws and rods make rotors, and those rotors go out there and go all the way up the outside of the building to the top floor. And this was, again, one of the first... This was something I should have kept going forwards, because this is actually a walkable factory. You can walk here. Look, you can get out onto the old roadway. This one was walkable, and I really should have kept that. Going up is a bit of a mess when you look at going into the trains. But this is what's going on. So we've then got... I never put a roof on here. So we've got the rotors coming up, and they're being mixed with the stators, which we are short on because all of the stators are being thrown out in this direction at the moment. But yeah, they are then making motors, and again we had an overflow. To feed all of the cabling and the wiring that was going to be needed, we tapped these copper nodes down here and built this kind of copper facility to the side. It has got a hypertube to connect the 2 together. It was nowhere near that long to start with, but effectively it fed those 2 copper nodes in. We made a load of copper. Some of it was fed round here to be turned into wire. And again, ooh, there's still some going into that overflow. Because that is actually full now. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, it fed round. We have the overflow to avoid it getting completely stumped up. And then that's kind of that wire that goes off to feed the other facility. We upstairs make cable, and originally this was only 1 layer, so we take a chunk of the ingots that come in, we turn them into wire. That wire is then fed into these constructors to make the... It's not the most efficient, it's using the basic recipes, it is literally wire into cable, but it does get everything put through. So then these guys are now making all that cable, which has got this all maxed out and topped up, which is great. So that's now just flowing through as is. So that was this facility. The cable had no overflow. It would not sync. But to expand, because we needed a ton more cable for making the automated wiring, as you can see, we had to knock out a wall and extend outwards, and we had to make a second floor and extend our wire making facilities on this floor. And I mean, it works. I'm kind of happy with it, but again, I think I could do that neater. It's not the tidiest facility, but you know, it does what it needs to, and I'm comfortable with where we are at the moment, and I'm glad it's kind of all done. Now, instead of doing a cut here, I'm just going to step outside, because the next facility we're going to have a look at is our quartz facility. So, what direction are you actually going in? Oh, you're going in that direction. Okay. So what we've got here... I don't need to run that in there now. I was like, oh, should I run that in? So what we've got here is we had some quartz nodes down there. This floor is making quartz crystals, and the next 2 floors are making the silica. So that we've got... Yeah, so that's all just being made and thrown out I'm seeing yellow lights. Why do we have yellow lights? Are you guys not fully fed? You're not. Oh. Interesting. Okay. So then we can go... Oh, it doesn't like that because it's not in the middle. I know this is a world tour, but this is one bit that's bothering me. Right, and then you'll go there. And you would go there. And then I need to put that back. And set that to overflow. Right, that should help feed a chunk more in there, shouldn't it? I'm hoping that feeds enough. I thought I did the math when I originally put this together, but apparently not. But I mean, I know we are in need of silica. Like, quite a lot in need. But, oh well. Right. Anyway, so yes, that's making all of this, and then we've got the one belt of quartz crystal and the 2 belts of silica that go all the way over here and just run along the belt and join up with our Caterium factory. So originally we were running a big old belt to take the Caterium back to our main base, but we then since brought it over here and we are using the pure Caterium ingot recipe, although somehow we appear to be short on water. I do not understand how we're short on water. I just don't get it. That's all pumping away anyway. Not that we need any of that gubbins at the moment. But yeah, so what we've got is we've got the Caterium ingots coming in. They are being turned into Quickwire because you need Quickwire for everything fancy when you get up to that kind of level. And see, look, you can see we've got the silica coming through. And what happens is the Quickwire gets fed upstairs. It gets joined with some copper sheeting that we've got coming in from, being flown in from the Nexus to make AI limiters. So yeah, that's what's happening on this floor up to this point. Afterwards, we are making circuit boards with the silica that we're bringing in from over there, and again, the copper sheets that we are flying in. We've got a bit of a logistics floor above where we've got batteries coming in and circuit boards going out. So yeah, that's all wearing away. We've then got... Why is that? Oh, batteries incoming. Yeah, you really didn't need that. We've then got... yeah, this drone port, I think this one's actually bringing the batteries in to feed the others. And you are bringing in the copper sheeting. This then... What we've got with the AI limiters and more of the silica and spare Quickwire and everything else all comes upstairs to this train station here. We have got a slight split where we've got AI limiters being sent out via drone port to our supercomputer facility. But effectively that's what this is up to, and so that's what this little section here does. So yeah, that's this section. Again, you can see snippets of the old roadway where I've just been chopping bits away as I didn't need it, but yeah, I miss the old roadway. It worked really well. I do regret taking it down. I do. Right, I'll see you guys over at that power facility in a couple of moments. Right, so here we are at Spire Coast Power, which was a big power plant project that I decided we needed to try and do. And I don't remember whether it was out of hubris or whether we were actually having power problems at the time. I did try, as you can see, I've got a nice yellow bar, I've got striped windows. I did try a few architectural bits, but this is an incomplete building. I haven't finished doing the outside of it, but the inside is fully functional. So effectively, and I'm not going to run you out to where they are, we have oil nodes that are feeding oil in here. Okay, so these oil pipes are then feeding in. We are making heavy oil residue and polymer resin, and this is specifically for a power plant. And I can already hear you, if you didn't watch it back then, going, what on earth is he doing with heavy oil residue and polymer to make power? Why is he not making fuel? And the answer is, as with the plastic and rubber facility that we had, I'm taking that heavy oil residue, mixing it with water, and we are making the diluted fuel. Okay? Because it maximizes the amount of fuel that we get out of the oil. The residue is actually then sent off over here to be mixed with more water and turned into plastic and a little bit of rubber. So that's what we've got going on over on that side, and we'll look at that in a bit more detail. But effectively, we've then got all of these blenders mixing water with heavy oil and giving us a metric ton of fuel out. Now, after that, forget all this. This was temporary when we were working on something, so forget all of that. I'm just not taking it down. But after that, we have, I think it works out to be like 8 floors, exactly like this, where we've got... what is it? 50 fuel generators. So we've got 8, I'm sure it's like 8 floors of 50. Might be 6 floors. But we've got a silly number of generators. All fuel generators, all whirring away, all just making that 150 megawatts of power. Just cranking it out non-stop. And this was geared as a fuel plant. So it's kind of dominating when you look at it up like that. Now, what we were doing, like I said, we took that heavy, the polymer resin, and we've got that working with a bit of an overflow to make sure nothing ever stops. And it, again, is mixed with water, and it's all being turned into plastic. Now, with this, we did actually have a situation where we weren't producing enough plastic. So what we did was we tapped another node over there that we weren't fully using, and we were turning this into rubber and heavy oil residue. We take the heavy oil residue, we turn it into fuel, but just directly heavy oil into fuel. We don't blend it with water because the numbers didn't require it. Because what we're then actually doing is we're taking the rubber and the fuel, and we are making residual plastic or recycled plastic, because we didn't need the rubber at the time. So we take the rubber and we turn it into plastic by mixing it with fuel. So it's a load of extra power, but it gives us a huge amount more plastic out at the other end. So yeah, we've then got that all going through here. We're feeding all that plastic up. We have got the overflow bit, so we can feed the rubber up as well, because we did have a few rubber problems later on. And what we are also doing is, you can see there's a little outlet or uplet here where we're adding plastic into this line. This plastic is coming from a whole setup. You can just see it all the way through there, because again, we ran into a bit where we just had no plastic. So what I did was I basically geared any spare oil, anything that wasn't being already in use, towards making plastic. So this, I don't think is using the... No, it is using the exact same setup. So yeah, it takes the oil, turns it into rubber and heavy oil. The heavy oil gets turned into fuel, and then we take the fuel and turn it into plastic and rubber. We take the fuel and the rubber and turn it into plastic. So that's, yeah, doing the same job, and that's just ticking away. Like I say, it, and oh, there we go. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Auto save. Oh, I was worried it was crashing again then. But it shows you I've been recording this world tour for an hour so far. I'm not sure what stage you guys are going to be at, because I'm going to level with you, because this is the last episode and the final world tour. I'm not timing this. I haven't got my normal timer going, so I don't know how long it's been. Right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... I was right first time out. 8 floors of 50. So that's, what, 400 fuel generators, which means this place alone is doing 60,000 power. And this is not our biggest power facility. We built this, and we never needed power again. But we did build another power facility, and we will get to that. So yeah, that was this one, and this was a big job. I actually built a fair amount of this off camera, because once the first floor with all the fuel generators had been built, everything else was a carbon copy of it. I think I built maybe the first 2 on camera, and then the others I just built off camera, because I wasn't going to subject you to repeated episodes of me just doing that. But it's tall. You can see this from pretty much anywhere on the map. So I might have to wait for this one to go. But our next stop, I believe, is the Nexus, which is where we're going to wind up spending a reasonable amount of time, because there's a lot that's going on at the Nexus. Where's your actual next destination? Computer, but yeah, you're going in the wrong direction for me. So, yeah, I will see you guys back over at the Nexus. Okay, so here we are at the Nexus. And this is why I called it that, because this is where I've got a large number of train stations that are effectively bringing in every resource that I felt we needed at the time. So they are bringing in a lot of different resources, and we've got one for steel imports, oil imports, explosive imports, iron, copper, so on and so forth. We've also got a load of drone ports at the end, bringing in some of the more late game materials that that didn't need quite the rate throughput that some of the earlier ones did. So we've got all of that there, and then we've also got a series of outputs on the other side, so that we could say, right, take this off to the battery factory, because here's all the things that you need to make batteries, and we'll get to the battery factory in a bit. Heavy modular frames output, crystal oscillator output, computer output. So you can see those are the 3 stations that line up with the computer factory, where I said we had those 3 input ones. So it effectively, this was a transition station where I could bring in resources and then send them back out in a different configuration. This was a labour of love, because it has been a complete nightmare trying to manage the trains. All of the long-term viewers of the series will attest to that, about how much trouble I had with trains around here. I made these junctions too tight and too complex for what I was trying to do. But what I was trying to do was effectively have this. So I've got a storage corridor, so all of those trains are dropping in resources, and I think this one's probably empty. Yeah, it's pretty empty. Are dropping in resources to all of these boxes, so that I've got access to those resources, but they also then get shipped out if I need them to in different directions. So that goes all the way down there with all of those trains, which I really like that, but I think I could do a better design for it if I went for it a second time. And I think I could hide an awful lot of the ceiling work that you guys can see going on with this. We have got an awesome sink there to deal with some of the overflow, particularly around the aluminium sheets, because that's what we've got. We've got our glass box up here, which is basically our control room, where we've got our hub, and this was meant to be like our central point. Now, there's an awful lot more going on at this locale. So what I'm going to start with is what I've got going on over here. Now, this was our original build location, okay? It is why I've got all of these random power poles left over here that I've just not taken down. There's no two ways around it. That's why they're hovering, because they're actually at the heights the old foundations were. But I didn't want to touch them because I didn't want to break the network from one end of the world to the other. The only part of our original build that has been untouched is this setup here. Like, we've upgraded it to give them minor Mark IIs and so on and so forth, and bits and pieces. But this bit here, making concrete, is the only part of the facility from the original setup that wasn't taken down. And the vast majority of all the concrete you see, like I know we've got that massive concrete facility, most of everything you see built came from these containers here. And these two nodes have been beasts. However, what we've actually got going on down here is this. We tore everything down, and what I needed out of all of this was a large amount of modular frames. So I've got all of these smelters here, because all of the iron nodes here are pure, so we're getting huge amounts out. So we're basically smelting each of them into a set of iron ingots, all pure. And then it basically goes up through all the chains. So we've got all these bits here making the iron plates, these bits over here making the screws. All of them then go upstairs, and I can fly around the other side, into the reinforced plates. I think we're making more normal plates over there. We've got even more screws, and then all of it comes up here. So we've got the final stage with the reinforced plates and the screws. The numbers for this were slightly mind-boggling. I don't recall all of them. I think anyone that wants to go back and see how this was done would be better served going back and watching those episodes and seeing my logic at the time than having me try and re-explain it now. Okay, so next bit. Let's follow this chain. So this chain was we needed to make some turbo motors. So here we've got aluminium sheets and copper sheets coming in to make the heat sinks. They're going through there where we've got the heat sinks. We have the heat sinks with the other requirements to make the cooling system. And again, this is why this was handy for the Nexus, because all of that rubber and all of the other bits being shipped in to the Nexus, so we had them to hand. We could bring them around. The nitrogen is being flown in from a different facility, and what it does is it drops off the nitrogen bottles, which are unbottled. The nitrogen gas flows out. The empty bottles are then sent back, so it's kind of a closed loop, and we don't need to add any new bottles to the circuit. It just goes round. We ship out heat sinks here for our nuclear facility that we will get to, and then these bits here are then joined in to give us the turbo motors. So again, we've got bits all coming through. That whole stack over there is making the modular engines, I think they were called. I think they're called. Yeah, I'm sure they're called modular engines. And again, these were made for the turbo fuel, rocket, jet, whatever engines. Yeah, modular engines. And they're being shipped around over here because all of our final space elevator parts were made basically here. So what we did was we took those turbo motors, we took those modular engines, and they were hooked together in these three machines to make the thermal propulsion rockets. We also then have three assemblers there that were making our frameworks, and we've got this little setup here that was making stators, which I'm worried that is empty. Have we just had a delivery of copper wire, as that's what's going on? Right, yes, so these guys are making our electromagnetic control rods to keep everything ticking over in that direction. I am very worried about that actually, now that this is stopping. I do not want that wire to stop. I mean, hopefully any of the other wire uses we're using are going to fall back in line now. So yeah, that is then the electromagnetic control rods and those flexible frames, along with batteries, no, it's just batteries, are being made to make our field generators. So that's 2 of our 4 final space elevator parts. The final space elevator part is this chunk over here, where the vast majority of it is actually just being kind of brought over to us. I think the only extra bits that are being flown in, I've got circuit boards being flown in and computers being flown in. because we didn't actually bring them in by train. But the supercomputers were already being brought in from a drone port over there, and we are training in the automated wiring because we looked at that from the facility. So that's making our adaptive control units. Those adaptive control units are coming over here with the supercomputers, and they're making our, whatever these are, assembly director systems. So yeah, that's all that kind of done. Now, the final space elevator part is the nuclear pasta, and that was set up first actually, and that was just running in the background and just ticking over. I did expand it. I did put a second one down because it just was taking forever. We are now making 1 nuclear pasta a minute, but effectively, yeah, it's just using spare bits of copper and heavy modular frames to just, you know, work here quietly in the background. Out the back of the Nexus, we had a big copper facility because we had a shortage of copper sheets. So what we did was we took the single copper node, which was a pure node at our area, and that single node is basically feeding all of these refineries into ingots, and all of those ingots into steamed copper sheets over here. So we're getting now a ridiculous amount of copper sheets coming through. That has been purposely backed up to basically feed the copper ingots over into our setup here to feed the nuclear pasta. The Nexus is... there's no two ways around it. It is a mess. It's an absolute mess. I can't explain anything about it. It is just... whenever I needed any random extra thing, it was just done. Like, another thing that we've got going on here is we are bringing in Caterium ore to make a load of extra AI limiters because we weren't making enough at our Caterium facility at one point. So yeah, that's just kind of a thing that's just going on. But yeah, that's the Nexus. The only other bit we've got going on, and I'm not actually going to show it off as part of the world tour, because it's an isolated bit, they're easy to spot in the playlist, is over there you can see we've got a big red present. That was our Christmas factory for Fixmas. Yeah, that's what that does. We build a Fixmas factory, and it works. We finished it, we got everything done. So yeah, that is as is. If you want to know how that went, please by all means just have a watch of some of the Christmas episodes. Right, so let's just drop this here, and then now we're going to head over to that damn tree station, which was named for a very specific reason. Okay, so here we are at that damn tree station, and this is that damn tree. And it's called that damn tree. Oh, they've tweaked bits. Because it caused me a huge amount of problem trying to build around it. Ooh, purple slug. I don't remember that being there. Okay, we'll grab that. Yeah, so this caused a huge amount of trouble trying to build around it. Sounds like cats are trying to get at me. Right, okay, so this is where I tried a bit of interior decorating. So I've got these curved walls and everything. Now what this does is this is our iron facility. It's going to look very similar. This is just a series of smelters. It's bringing in all of the pure iron nodes that are around. And they then get fed up through this glass lift, because I quite like the idea of a glass lift. And again, I was trying to make this one a walkable factory. Up onto this floor, where they... what are we doing on this one? We're making iron plates and iron rods. And it looks huge and empty because there wasn't anything else needed on this floor, and I've got a huge amount of foliage I can't deal with. So that's what I've got going on there. We have got logistics floors between all of them, so this is where I was learning to play with the logistics floors. So we've got those sandwiches between. Here we are then making our... I think this is all... no, you're making more iron plates. Is one of you doing reinforced plates? No, is this just a whole nother floor of iron plates? This is a whole floor of iron plates. Shows you how long it's been since I've looked at this. Okay. So that's that. And then we go outside because I cannot remember why. We just went outside for this one. And this is the final floor where we have screws. How many a minute? Oh, 130. I thought that was a comma, not a full stop then. So yes, we bring steel in to make screws, which then make the reinforced plates. Some of those reinforced plates actually then get fed back over onto this side where they have to make modular frames. So yeah, this is, like I say, it's our iron facility, so I try to make everything all iron-like, but we've got our glass lift, everything goes down, but for the most part, this one is a walkable factory. It's not the nicest, and it's got loads of random open gaps where I didn't quite finish bits, but again, this one is a walkable factory. I just couldn't figure out how to do stuff like that corner nicely, and that looks horrible. So it's got some bits I'm not sure of, but yeah, for the most part, it's a fully walkable factory. Now, next one along from here, because there's a little cluster I want to go through, is actually going to be over there, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make that jump. In fact, I know I won't. So let's go over like this. Right, okay. So this is our battery factory we're going to have a look at next. And this was one that I was just trying to have a look at, and it was built here out of necessity because I needed the sulfur. So what I've got is I've got actually a train line coming straight into the ground floor to deliver some of the resources that we need, less the sulfur. And then we've got a whole logistics hanging from the ceiling, because again, we had access to ceiling mounts on this one. And wow, that is going through that wire now, actually. Okay. There's where a good chunk of our wires go in then, because we're actually using the batteries a fair amount now. Okay, so this then comes up onto those manufacturers that are making them. Again, I tried to play with colours and paints, and what I really wish there was a 3/4, so I could have done that corner. But I can't actually put 2 sets of paint on there. That's an issue with that. So yeah, it'd have been nice to have had that 3/4 as a paint option, but it's not there. We then come up to the roof where the batteries are all put together. I'm going to stop sinking those batteries because I need the copper elsewhere, so I need that to back up for so the wire doesn't keep getting made. Or get sucked up. So yeah, that's what we've got. We've got storage. It then gets shipped out here. So anything that needs to come and get batteries. So if I look at this port, look, you can see all of these ports are flying in here to pick up batteries to then ship out to elsewhere. So that's kind of where I've got it as a central thing, where we can just, like I say, whenever I set up a new drone hub where there's going to be more than one drone port, one of them is dedicated to come over in here and pick up batteries to feed the rest. But again, it's a walkable factory. I did try and make the whole thing look like an actual battery from Satisfactory. I don't know how successful I was, but I was just having fun. I've got like inset windows. I had fun doing this one. I think I did a good amount of that decoration actually on live stream, so that's one that you'll be able to go back and check out. There is an oil factory over there. I've been recording this for quite a while now, so I don't know that I'm going to go and do that because it's not particularly interesting. It's just like a small, inefficient version of the oil factory that you saw before. It's not anything extra. It's not anything key mark or noteworthy. This one, however, I am going to visit. Now, this was our first power plant, and that's why I'm visiting it, because it was our first. Hey? How have I not opened that? Blimey, okay. Alright, we've got a we'll set that off going. We may as well have a look at it. Something interesting for that. Okay. How had I not opened that hard drive before? Particularly as it's right under a power plant. Anyway, so this power plant was our first one. And yeah, it's not complicated. It brings in the coal, it brings in the water, and it just does it. It is mostly walkable. You have to jump over a few bits, but we have got stairs leading all the way up onto the top floor, where we effectively have a repeat of what was on the one below. So I liked this. This was sort of my first attempt at a big factory. It was a good self-contained power plant. It works. It's been upgraded to the point where, like, we've just run faster belts through here. But yeah, that works. What we've also been doing is this is where I mean we upgrade. That power plant uses a lot less coal than it could, but we don't have any more sort of space we could put water, because look, we've pulled a lot of water. So what actually then happens is a lot of the extra coal comes over here. There is a sulfur node up there, which we are using to make compacted coal, which goes off to our turbo fuel plant, which we will go and have a look at, and that's what this little happy truck's doing. One of the few trucks left in the world, where he is, yeah, going around and delivering the compacted coal, which he is actually using as fuel as well, because we are producing enough of it. So he just does that and drives it around. Yeah, so we've got tons of compacted coal built up there. And then, like I say, a lot more of the other coal goes up to that train station there to be shipped around the world. So, yeah, again, you can see this was one of the ends of our skyway, because it used to come up here and go off in that direction and run through the world. I did experiment as well here, having the chimneys poking out, which I kind of like. I do like how that worked. And now, hang on. Oh, aluminium coal exports. That's one of the coal coaches. That's fine. That's fine. So you've got gunpowder and smokeless gunpowder. Right, next we're going to have a look at probably the biggest thing we built in this game, which took a huge amount. So let's head over to the nuclear station. Okay, I haven't actually been over here since I finished building it. I'm slightly alarmed by how much green there is down there. In fact, I'm very alarmed by how much green there is down there. Okay, so this is our nuclear facility, and the gist of this is we are producing nuclear fuel rods to power all of these nuclear generators, which we are. But I do not like how there is waste on some of these. Yeah. I haven't got any filters on me. I'm going to need to go and get filters for us to actually try and have a look around here. So I'm going to need to be back in a few moments. Right, okay, so I've got an iodine filter now. So effectively what we are doing is we are bringing in coal and the control rods, but the coal is coming in here with some iron that we are sourcing locally to make steel bars, which goes in there, which makes the reinforced bits, which go into the fuel rods. We are bringing in uranium and water and sulfur to make sulfuric acid, to make our encased uranium cells, and the spare acid then just gets looped back around into the system, so that's kind of closed. Kind of going through this a little bit quickly because of the radiation. So these guys are actually all making the fuel rods with the cells, the encased beams, and the fuel rods that are being chipped in. So that kind of covers all of this off. What is going on over here? And I'm going to turn on my emergency sink now. So, right, turn that off. There we go. So, this is our emergency overflow system. So what happens is I'm actually feeding in iron ore here, which gets smelted in here. But when I turn this off, the iron ore should get backed up and not actually be able to smelt through. Which means all of that gets fed through, and we don't send any more fuel rods over in this direction, which should allow us to then deal with all of the waste. Now, what I find kind of interesting is that this first line appears to be working absolutely fine, because that waste is flowing away. Why has everything else shut down? Why have you shut down? You're full. Okay. And you've got water in you. Why have you shut down? Because you're full. Why have you shut down? Because you can't get rid of your water. Okay. That doesn't seem right. You can't get rid of your water. But there's space for it to go. I don't get why it's saying that it can't do that. There we go, that's now getting rid of water. Are you now getting rid of water? You're now getting rid of water. Okay. That's weird. And are you in the same situation? You just can't get rid of your water. So you're doing that. What are you guys up to? Yeah, it looks like you can't get rid of your water. Which is insane, because I do that, and you're like, oh! Oh yeah, it floods out. Oh, okay, alright. Okay. Weirdness. But that then should allow everything else to flow through. I mean, that's completely full already, so that's fine. Because it's meant to be a closed system for that water. So it's meant to have enough water in the system to let it work. So what happens if I just clear that segment just to give a bit more overhead? Right, okay. Right, well hopefully that's going to start clearing some of the the waste backlog. Okay, so effectively what happens is what's meant to happen, which is what's happening on the first band. So we've got all of this nuclear material. The reactors work, they give us power. The waste then comes through here where it's joined with all this silica, nitric acid, sulfuric acid to make the non-fissile uranium. But it is split because what it actually needs in here is non-fissile uranium and uranium waste to make the plutonium pellets. That's a closed acid loop. And what all this does is this then takes the pellets to make the plutonium cells, and then we make plutonium rods, which are then just sunk. Because you can sink a fuel rod, what you can't do is sink any of the waste. So that's why we have this whole recycling facility. We are bringing in a huge amount of water, because you can see all the water extractors over there, and all of this pipe work to bring it all in, which is incredibly neat, and I was very pleased with it. I am now just hoping that that is now going to slowly clear itself out. Because I need it to clear itself out. There's no two ways around that. But effectively, we have got a little drone system over here, where we fly in the additional materials that are needed, such as the nitrogen gas, that's needed for the nitric acid. We are also then bringing in... What are you doing? You're doing batteries, you're bringing in silica, and you're bringing in the heat sinks for the... words are escaping me. For the plutonium fuel rods. So yeah, like I say, that's now hopefully going to sort itself out. No, you've gone amber again. Why have you gone amber again? Because you're not getting rid of your water. why. Right, flush that and it fills up. Valve. Oh, I'm missing rubber. Okay, alright. I don't like that. At some point, I might have to try... Well, not I might. I probably will at some point come back and figure out what's going on with that. But it's because it can't drain that water. What happens if I just loop you in there like that? Does that let you get rid of all of it? Yep. Okay, so it's something to do with the floor holes. I think we knew there were issues with the pipes in floor holes. I'm sure we knew there was a problem with that. So, you know what? I'm just going to clip through in the meantime. And I bet you guys are having the same problem, aren't you? Yeah. So we'll just do that as well. There we go. Right, I see stuff moving, so that's now been able to get rid of all of its water. Fine. So that should sort that all out, and eventually when you get rid of your acid, you'll turn back on. Right. That's a weirdness. But, you know, welcome to Satisfactory. Every now and again you get weird bits. But that's hopefully going to sort that out, and that's going to be able to clear all of that waste. Because clearly, from this side, where the water didn't stop flowing for an unknown reason, you can see the logic worked. But yeah, we're going to have to wait for this line to clear out because it's wildly radioactive over here at the moment. But yeah, that's the nuclear facility. That's how it's worked out. Everything has been not manifolded for a change. It is, yeah, look, you can see that's where it's going to start backing up and stopping anything else coming through. Yeah, it's not manifolded for a change. It is load balanced to make sure that everything gets fed the right amount. But everything's been fed too much at the moment because some of those reactors over there could not get rid of anything. So I'm assuming because you can't get rid of your waste, you shut down. Which means we're not actually working at... No, you're currently burning through... Oh, wow, you've got 500 waste just sat in you that you've not been able to get rid of. Okay, yeah, waste slot is full. Okay. That's going to take a while to clear out. That's going to... Yeah, look, you can see all the wobbling on the power there. Yeah, okay. That's fine. I mean, like I said, this was unnecessary. Our fuel plant more than covered everything. But yeah, that's the nuclear facility. I don't feel I can be held responsible for the water pipes not working. I don't feel that's fair on me. Because look, one band, perfectly fine, and each of those are set up the same way. So, yeah, hopefully, like I say, that's going to sort itself out, but it will take time. Right, okay, next facility is going to be the primary copper facility. So, again, I will meet you guys over there. So, here we are, not at our copper facility, as I mentioned, because I actually remembered this would be a more appropriate one to go over, because it was next nearest. This was our second aluminium plant that we built. And so again in here we are working with the sloppy alumina because then we don't have to worry about any of the silica outputs, and in here we've got our scrap being turned into water with coal, which the coal is coming in from a coal node that we're pulling somewhere over there, somewhere in the distance. Yeah, look, you can see the coal nodes coming in. Whoop. Did not mean to drop there. There we go. Okay. So going up from there, we've then got a ton of crystal being flown in, because we do actually want silica for the stages after this. So we are turning, we've got basically 2 floors turning crystals into silica. The silica is then put through into the foundries, and the reason I've done this is because the scrap to silica is actually more efficient. You get more aluminium ingots or aluminium ingots out of it, whereas the reason I like the sloppy is because you still get more solution out of it. So it's one of those weird bits where I'm using a mixture of the original and the alternate recipes to properly maximise what I'm getting out here. Now with this, we are flying in copper ingots, which are being held in here. It's good to know that that's looking pretty full. And what we are doing is we are making, as you can see, a huge amount of aluminium sheets, but we are also making some casings. And then this all gets flown out. Now, you can see over there we've got another facility, and we're going to go have a look at that. Now that facility is our nitrogen facility. Now one of the bits I will actually mention with that nitrogen facility is if you were to try and build this today, you would not build it where I've built it. And the reason for that is they moved the nitrogen node. It's now actually here, but when I built it, it was over here. And the way it works when they move the nodes is you are, like, Satisfactory for my game still believes as this is built on top of that node. So even though it's here, it's still functional. It's pressurized and it's getting it all out. It's actually just tapped the node that's now slightly there over on that hill. Now, what have we got? This is where you can see we are bringing in, so we're sending out full bottles, and they're being buffered here, and we are bringing in empty bottles that then go around on the system, and that's basically how it works. We then also feed one of our bars, I don't know. I'm beginning to shut down. I've actually been recording this for coming up to 2 hours now, so my brain's beginning to get a bit confuzzled. So one of the pipes comes all the way over here, and this is where we're actually making our fused modular frames. And I built this as a huge factory, expecting it to do lots and lots of things, and then I just didn't do it. It kind of was where it was. So what I've got in here is we are bringing in some of the aluminium casings. They're being flown in. We've got our heavy modular frames. We're bringing in that nitrogen, and they all get, you know, dealt with on a logistics floor under here. And then if I pop up, all of these blenders throw all of that together to make the fused modular frames, which are then shipped over in this direction, because you can see we've got the drone ports there, and then they're drone ported back to the Nexus. So that's this kind of little leg. You can see this is kind of beginning to touch on the, is it the Green Hills area? The like the OG starting area when Satisfactory was launched. It was the only place you could start. It's beginning to touch on that area, but I haven't got too close to it, and that's a pretty untouched biome for me. So I might actually start there when we, you know, when 1.0 comes out, we will be doing a Series 2. Be under no illusions. So we might have a look at that as an area when we get around to 1.0. But yeah, that's kind of what we've got on this little dogleg over here. Those facilities like that. We've got 3 facilities left. So I will catch you guys properly when we get to the copper facility this time. And then we'll be nearly done. Okay, so here we are at the main copper facility, and the start point for this one is actually these 3 truck stops, and I didn't need to use truck stops. I did that because I thought it would be fun. So effectively the trucks go out, they pick up copper from the miners, and they bring them back. That's it. That's as complicated as it gets, and Satisfactory's just crashed on me. I think. Yeah, because that's not an autosave. I think that's an actual crash. Right, I will be back in a moment once I get it moving again. Okay, so unfortunately Satisfactory has decided to die on me properly. So I'm going to try and restart my computer, see if I can get that to fire up properly again, and it does mean that I'm not going to probably try and get the rest of the world tour done, because I don't want to risk it where it is that unstable. What I will do is, if I can get it to launch, we'll jump straight in and we will do the final space elevator part. So hopefully I'll catch up with you guys in a couple of moments. Okay, so it would appear that we are back. But like I've mentioned, the Satisfactory has been very unstable with me, so I'm not going to try and risk sort of drawing this out and having it crash on me a load more times. The facilities we haven't covered off are the main copper facility, which hasn't changed that much since we've built it, the main steel production facility out in the desert, the supercomputer facility, which is completely untouched since we finished it, and my favourite facility, which I'm really sad we didn't get to, which was the turbo fuel power plant, because I really liked that one. That one that was kind of built. We've seen it many times as we've gone past. Yeah, kind of wish we'd managed to get to see that one. Almost looks like you can see part of it from over here. It really does. That's very odd. But yeah, so we're just going to launch it and get the game complete. So what I want to say is thank you very much to sort of everyone that's watched the series. It's been a year and 8 months of my life at this point. Our current playtime is, what, 321 hours, and I know I'm not the most efficient player. We're at 300 and something episodes. I mean, hang on, let me just quickly look that up, because it's been a hell of a journey. It's been really crazy. So yeah, we are at 241 episodes, which is just mind-boggling to me, particularly as way back when I did episode 1, and anyone that's watched it from back then or seen it recently is aware. In episode 1 I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this as a one-off, just see how it goes, see how much people like it, and you guys loved it, and that meant so much to me, and it's given me so much enthusiasm to bring me to this point, because whenever I've tried to do this before on my own, I never even got to trains, and now I've finished it, and I've built a functioning nuclear plant, pipes excluded, but I don't feel I can be held responsible for the pipes failing and not letting the water through. But yeah, it's just been a hell of a journey, and I am going to work on the things I've learned. I'm going to try and use this save file. Try being the operative word, because like I say, it's so unstable at the moment, and we're not getting any bug fixes till version 1.0 comes out. But yeah, it's just been a thing. Do let me know in the comments how you found it as a series, whether you're looking forward to season 2, and also what we've got coming up next. What we have got coming up next is, I am taking the poll results as they stand at today, is a Dyson Sphere program. So we're going to move on to the Dyson Sphere program, which is something I'm hoping I get on with. I did try it like a very little bit ages ago myself, and I found it very different. I didn't know how much I enjoyed it, so I'm hoping I'm going to throw myself properly into it for you guys, and I'm hoping you guys are going to enjoy that. It is going to be hopefully slightly blind, so don't give me too many tips and guidance. I want to go into it a little bit in the dark, but that's what's coming up. But yeah, other than that, thank you all very much for joining me today. Thank you very much to my patrons and YouTube channel members. Your support, as always, is very much appreciated. And as a supporter, you gain access to this save file. So if you do want to have an explore of the world on your own, go for it. Anyone that doesn't, the base level is £1, or $1. I think sort of Patreon or YouTube force it to. So if you only want to have a quick look, it's there. By all means, it's that for a month. But yeah, I just want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for everyone that's come with me on this journey, because I'm under no illusion. Satisfactory is what's grown this channel to where it is, and yeah, I'm just very, very humble and thankful to everyone that's come along on this journey. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you have a great day, and I will catch you all next time. Now let's launch this baby.